Hello and welcome to this week's video. We're on the beautiful Isle of Skye for a week's holiday, and tonight we've come down to Duntulm Bay. We photographed this place just once before, and tonight we've got a low tide. So low tide is actually now at 7 o'clock and sunset is at 8:30 tonight. So we're going to spend the next hour and a half just exploring all of these rocky outcrops that just lead out into the sea. There's not really any sort of movement or texture in the water because it's a low tide. So probably what we'll do is use the filters to smooth all that water out and really concentrate on a good foreground. We've got some lovely clouds, really light, high, fluffy clouds that hopefully will catch. Very similar to last night. Last night we took a trip down to Skye Bay and drove all the way around the coast and just took one image. We left it a bit late, to be honest, because we'd actually come down to Duntulm, but over the other side where the castle is. But it was so windy, and at the point that we were sat on the edge of the cliff debating whether to take some images of the castle or not, there wasn't a lot of clouds, so we made a last minute split decision to go somewhere else, which is never good, because we then didn't give ourselves enough time really to spend at Skye Bay. But because we were there last night, we thought we'd focus on this bit here. So what I'll do is, while I go and have a look for some compositions, I'll show you a little bit of footage and just the image that we took from last night. So the image that you're about to see is a 2-minute exposure using a 10-stop ND and a 0.9 medium grad. Just focused on the rocks that were closest to me and tried to sort of pick up some details, some movement in that cloud, which it was absolutely spectacular. And hopefully if we get something similar tonight, you know, we could be on for some nice shots. So yep, I'll go and have a look and I'll speak to you in a bit. So I've had a little bit of a wander around, just trying to find some compositions. I've had a walk. There's a little outcrop of rock that leads out into the sea. There is some real nice compositions there, but I'm actually quite surprised that the tide seems to be coming in a little bit quicker than I thought. And we've got an hour and a half till sunset yet. So, you know, potentially that's the thing with not an incoming tide, but a tide that is on its way in, that you can find a composition and think this would work, but it's not going to be there in an hour and a half. You know, you've got all of these lovely sort of ledges, shelves, I suppose, of rock that just lead out, that would be really good leading lines. But again, not sure if they're going to be there sort of within the next hour. You know, I suppose across to my right, you've got the mainland, the cliff face, and it's almost like rock pillars. When we came down here before, a few years ago, the light does catch those, and they were absolutely lovely orange glow on them. So I'm sort of debating whether to have a look for a composition that I can shoot across rather than out to sea. There's not much by way of sort of interest out there. You've got some sort of rocks and mountains in the background, but they can look really lost, sort of minuscule on the horizon when you're shooting. So I'm not sure that there's going to be enough out that way unless I can find a really good foreground. But yep, keep hunting, we'll keep looking. And once we find something, we'll talk you through it and show you what we're doing. Okay, so I found a shot. It's not floating my boat, but it is quite nice. So we've got a large boulder, a large rock, pretty much in the centre of the frame. You've got all of this rock that's leading down. They're almost like shells, edges, ledges of rock that lead down into the sea. They're absolutely wonderful. And then in the middle, you've just got this boulder that's splitting that up a little bit. There's a little bit of water around it. And what I've done is I've gone left and right, up and down, just to try and see maybe which height, which side would work the best. And I've just gone for centre on, pretty much, and quite high. And that's to try and get some of this foreground in, just leading out where the light's catching the cliff beautifully just across there. In terms of what I've got on my lens, I've just got a reverse grad, a 0.9 reverse grad, exposed for the foreground, and then put the reverse in just to balance it a little bit. The tide is coming in quite high, quite heavily rather, which I'm quite surprised about, to be honest. We've got some beautiful light just catching across here, and I think maybe with this incoming tide a little bit we might be able to get something across that side, but we've got about maybe 40 minutes till sunset. It's too bright yet to try and shoot anything across this side, but this is where the majority of that absolutely lovely cloud is. So I think I am going to have to pull my finger out and try to make something of this beautiful foreground. It is quite difficult though, to be fair, because as much foreground as there is, shooting out, as I say, across the sea though, you've just got the mountains on the horizon, but you know, sort of when you're taking that image, they're hardly visible. So I'm going to spin it around and see what I can make of this absolutely beautiful, beautiful cliff face across here. It's wonderful.
Wake up, baby, all the stars are shining bright. Yeah, we should stay up so that we can look at them.
So I've come back to this original composition of this boulder. I've been a little bit all over the place, to be fair, because as I mentioned, I've struggled, even though there's a lot of foreground, I have struggled to find something that I feel works. I'm still not sure whether this does or not, but I've got this boulder framed up in the middle with this rock that I'm stood on, sort of coming into a bit of a point, leading out to that beautiful sunset. The cloud is probably quite hazy, quite wispy. There's a little subtle bit of colour, nothing spectacular. They're not going to be sort of anything special, the images tonight, but you know, I suppose it proves that coming out even in such beautiful conditions at a beautiful spot doesn't necessarily mean a good photograph. Does that make me sort of question myself maybe a little bit, maybe a little, if I'm honest? You know, we've spent maybe 2 hours here looking around and sort of looking at different compositions, and I suppose, you know, I do like the shot. I think what it is, you know, I would have preferred the tide to be maybe surrounding the boulder a little bit, overlapping the boulder and getting some wave movement maybe as I suppose as the tide comes over and cascades off that rock. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe there's not a lot of or enough water in that foreground. But yeah, I mean, I'm gonna carry on taking some shots, because as that sun sets, the rest of this cloud might light a little bit more, but it is absolutely beautiful.
I've been searching, follow every step, every road, every single trace, analyzing, try to figure out those lines up on your face.
I've struggled for some reason tonight. I don't know whether I've tried too hard or not to try and make something of this location. You know, the tide plays a massive part in seascape photography. You know, and when you've not got that force, that movement, you know, we stood up on the top there where we parked up, and we ummed and ahed, didn't we?
We did.
Whether to come down or not, and it was Max that actually said, "No, come on, let's go and make something of it."
Yeah.
And I don't know whether, because I felt the tide wasn't sort of what I wanted it to be, whether that's put me off a little bit tonight. I'm not sure. But the location, you know, is absolutely stunning. We've had a beautiful sunset.
Yeah.
You know, we wouldn't want to be anywhere else. And it's great to come out and have another go, have a practice with the camera and compositions. And as always, it's the compositions that can be the hardest bit. But let us know what you think. There might be one or two images that look all right. And, you know, usually, and I'm sure it's the same for everybody, you review your images when you've taken them. And I'll always say to Max, "Oh, they're all right, they're nothing special." And then, you know, you get back and you edit them and you think, "Oh, they're all right, they're all right." So I'm hoping that they're all right. But we'll see once we've had a look at them. But I hope you've enjoyed this week's video. Max has been an absolute star with the drone and the B-roll again. You know, we couldn't sort of share the videos with you without Max doing what she does. So we'll say adios for this week, and we'll see you again next week. Take care.